All right. So, hello everybody. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the second part of day one in our SolidWorks 3D Experience Week 2021. All right. So, if it's your first time seeing me, hello. I am JJ and I will be your moderator or your MC for this event for the next 3 days. All right. So, joining us today at this session, okay, is Mr. Wong Keat. All right. Yeah. So he is actually one of our director at CPS and also a certified smart industry readiness or so-called CV assessor. So he has invested nearly 30 years of professional years in systems development, global supply chain, electronics manufacturing, and engineering solutions. So today, he will be sharing with us some key takeaways on how to future-proof your businesses and organization with Industry 4.0 by using this CV framework that has been adopted in many other countries originating from Singapore. All right, so without further ado, please welcome Mr. Wong. Yep, so Keat. Are you there? All right, seems like we are having a little technical difficulty right here. Yep. You stay safe for you as well. See in the audience.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
All right. Yep. Hi. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Hi, JJ.
Yep. So I'll leave the floor to you.
Thank you. Now, am I able to share my screen?
Yeah, sure. I'll just pass you the attendee, the presenter, and you should be good to go.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Nice seeing you. Yeah.
Just give me 1 minute, guys. I need to figure out which screen to share.
Sure.
Okay, can I just get a confirmation? Can you all see my shared screen?
Yep. We see it. Getting your business ready for I 4.0.
Okay,
right.
Great.
All right.
Is there any way I can see what is being presented on screen? Because now I'm just seeing myself. Hello?
So you can actually access that on the right at your panel. It should be the first option, attendees view.
On my, okay.
Yep.
Okay, got it. All right. Sorry, guys.
No worries. Yep.
All right, let's get started.
Yep.
Welcome everybody, and thank you for tuning in to this edition of Future Proofing Your Career and Your Business. Today, I'm going to be covering the topic of how ready we are, and how can we get ready for the future business, especially in Industry 4.0. So this is not just something that will obviously affect our business, but our career as well. So I'm pretty sure this is relevant to everybody here, and I hope that this is going to be useful to you in figuring out your own personal career as well as your own your business. Okay, the question is, are you ready for the future? Now, a lot of people are talking about Industry 4.0, since back in 2016, 2015 even. There has been a lot of attention given, a lot of hype, a lot of sort of studies, seminars, all kinds of things happening, but in bits and pieces. And so what I'm hoping to do is to present to you a clear vision to give you a framework to think about Industry 4.0, understand how it applies to you, as well as your business or your company. Okay. Now, why adopt Industry 4.0? There are a number of reasons, and of course in the market, being a consultant, I hear quite a lot from a lot of our customers actually. And of course, everybody agrees that, hey, Industry 4.0 is really important. It's something that I really need to take advantage of, or I need to pay attention to because it's going to be a game changer. Well, why adopt? There are so many different reasons. Some of them, says everybody is doing it. Everybody says it's the future, so I better, pay attention. My peers and my competitors are adopting it. Shouldn't I be adopting it as well? There are government grants available. That's always a good reason, right? It ensures I stay relevant. Now, the fact of the matter is that all of this is they are important, yeah. But the key here is to make sure that you have clarity of vision. We must understand what Industry 4.0 is designed to achieve. So it's my goal today to sort of declutter a lot of the noise. Hopefully, by the end of this session, you will be able to filter it down to a framework that is easy business transformation or to know the possible actions you can take. Yeah. Next, the impact of Industry 4.0. Yeah. How does this affect us? Now, this map I'm showing you is a very interesting map and very comprehensive, developed by the World Economic Forum. Everybody knows the fourth industrial revolution. Now, later on, I'll be asking this question. What is the difference? People use this terminology quite interchangeably, fourth industrial revolution and I 4.0, Industry 4.0. What's the difference? But briefly on fourth industrial revolution, developed by, or this map, as I said, developed by World Economic Forum, shows you the interrelationship and connections between what's happening in this revolution and so many different aspects of our lives. It can be, in terms of technology innovation, it can be in terms of jobs, it can be in terms of, agile governance. It can affect our ethics and identity, trust. It certainly affects, things like human rights, migration, even COVID-19. There's a lot of impact to what this revolution has. Okay, now, what's the difference between in fourth industrial revolution and Industry 4.0? The fourth industrial revolution was first introduced by Klaus Schwab. All right, this is a terminology coined by Mr. Schwab in the World Economic Forum in 2015. It refers to a new industrial era and how this revolution will transform our lives with a very broad scope in mind. Right? It also describes the impact that we will feel in government, in education, in manufacturing, consumption, commerce, almost every aspect of our lives. And it's fueled by the fusion of technologies, right? From additive manufacturing, big data, IoT. I'm sure all these terms you have all heard, being in the technology world yourselves. If you want to understand a little bit more, you can go to this particular article called The Fourth Industrial Revolution, what it means and how to respond. Yeah, so this is what the Fourth Industrial Revolution is referring to. Industry 4.0, on the other hand, is a little bit more narrow and focused in scope. It was coined by an industrial consortium in Hannover Messe, Germany, back in 2011. So this was actually even earlier, or the terminology was actually created earlier, to refer to a convergence of technologies and how to structure, integrate, and apply them to realize the desired transformation. So this is basically about the actual application of technology, and particularly concerned with the standardization of these technologies, how to bring them together, right, to work together as in a single system or architecture within a framework. Right? So this is purely very focused on the technology aspect, but from a business perspective, it is concerned with the manufacturing business. So it is primarily designed or to shift the focus or to drive focus into the world of manufacturing and how the world of manufacturing can leverage on these converging technologies to achieve this kind of flexibility that it's talking about. And is of course pioneered by industry players and government agencies in Germany, as some of you may have heard. Platform Industry 4.0 is one of the largest network for Industry 4.0 practitioners in the world, and they have relationships with many countries, taking input to constantly improve the framework to make it more applicable to the manufacturing industry. So the fourth industrial revolution around the world has, a lot of these countries that you perhaps may have heard of. China, Made in China 2025 is one of the big ones. Of course, Germany, as I mentioned, Platform Industry 4.0. And in Singapore, the SIRI framework was developed, and I'll be diving into that a little bit more. Now, bear in mind, we're talking about fourth industrial revolution, and every country has a big framework under the fourth industrial revolution. Some choose to develop even further, more focused, more targeted programs like SIRI, which is targeted at manufacturing for Singapore. There are many other initiatives, like in Singapore, there's the Smart Nation, which is also part of the fourth industrial revolution. So every country has multiple programs. Now in Malaysia, for some of our audience, we have Industry Forward Malaysia. So that's also another program, all around the same scope of Industry 4.0. Okay, so that's to give you a big picture of what's happening around the world. Now, why should I be concerned about this? I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but let me just try and bring it closer to, to home. Yeah? The revolution will affect all aspects of life in economy, industry, government, as I mentioned earlier. We are already experiencing the change. So personally, we feel and we experience the threats and some of the opportunities available to us individually. One thing a lot of people may not have even spend much time thinking about, but there's a transfer of power and wealth going on right now. Some jobs will be obsoleted, new jobs created. Now, on the professional side, product development side, life cycles are going to change. Many of you who are customers of CADVision, you use our products. You are probably in the product development life cycle business. We all know that that's going to shrink. That's going to shorten. There's a lot of changes going on in the manufacturing cycles and processes as well, not just becoming shorter, but in nature, making a lot of changes. Operational processes will become more integrated. Example, supply chain, how you deal with your suppliers and your customers. Yeah, there's more collaboration taking place. Customers will want solutions, not products. Your customers will demand not just products, but also services, for example. So all these things mean that we have to work well within the ecosystem, because no company now kind of like operates alone and can provide everything within that one company. Some businesses will become obsolete and new businesses will emerge. This is primarily because a lot of business models are changing. And some jobs will be obsoleted, new jobs created. So that's just an overview. Hopefully, that gives you a perspective of why this is critical and how we need to sort of be prepared for it. Industry 4.0 adoption has been actually quite slow from our perspective, the way we see since its introduction until now. If you look at 2016 in a survey, 75% respondents expect very high level of digitalization. Then in 2017, McKinsey survey, it shows that there's a lack of clear vision, strategy, and systematic roadmap as being the biggest challenge to I4.0 adoption. And then 1 year later, 2018, 75% of 200 manufacturing companies in ASEAN surveyed say that Industry 4.0 can and will improve business performance, yet only 13% had started on their Industry 4.0 transformation. So why such a low number? This graph shows you some of the key challenges. Yeah, if you look at the phases of adoption, typically you learn about it, you evaluate on yourself, where are you right now, for example, and then you architect a solution that suits your company, and then you deliver the solution. And the gap, the large gap, is usually when coming to architecting a solution. Everybody says, hey, I've learned, I know quite a lot about it. I do want to do something about it. I want to be able to transform. But when it comes to architecting a solution, there's a big gap. So what's causing that big gap? Now, again, if you look at deliver, by the time you come to delivering a solution, it's even lower, right? So enter SIRI, or Smart Industry Readiness Index. This is why SIRI was created, to plug that particular gap, to address the gap that I showed you earlier. If you can just give me a minute, I think there are some questions. No question. Okay, I thought there was some chats going on. Sorry. Okay, so moving on, Smart Industry Readiness Index. What is it created for? Okay, so as I gave you the context earlier, it's created to help companies transform, particularly to address 4 key areas, right? To understand where they are, or rather to understand the framework first of all, and then to assess where you are. Where am I now in my company or my business in this context of the I 4.0 framework? How do I apply them? And of course, most people say, look, it's nice, if you come up with a theory, it is in a perfect world, everybody should be doing it, but I have constraints. So how should I balance between adopting the technology and the practicality or the practical aspects of my business, like resources, money, all those things. So these will be considered in the framework. And then how do I adopt it? Adopting it just doesn't mean say I want to adopt it and that's it, you can continue and it will work automatically. No, but there is a method, there's a way for you to adopt it. So I will be sharing with you a proven I 4.0 framework, right, that has been used by more than 350 companies worldwide, which is called the Smart Industry Readiness Index. Now, this acronym SIRI obviously is a lot of people think about Apple, but this is not the Apple iPhone Siri. This is SIRI, the Smart Industry Readiness Index. Now, basically, this framework is going to help you start, scale, and sustain the 3 S's. Start, scale, and sustain your I 4.0 effort. So it's a very practical framework to look into. Now, a quick background of SIRI, just so that before I go into the actual framework itself, I want to give you some confidence in how this thing came about and how it was being developed. This, as I said, was developed to address issues like different levels of understanding of what I 4.0 is. As I said earlier, there's a lot of terms being thrown around, there's a lot of bits and pieces of information flying all over in the internet. How do you make sense of it? I'd like to help you declutter it and create a framework in your mind that hopefully will help you understand this a little bit better. There's a different pace of adoption among many different companies, large and small companies, right? And there's no systematic way of implementing it. As I said, adopting it requires a method as well. So it's created in conjunction and in partnership with global industry leaders like TUSUD. I'm sure many of you have heard of them. Platform Industry 4.0, as I said, they were one of the pioneers in this area. And it uses the reference model. It stands for the Reference Architecture Model I 4.0, RAMI 4.0. Now, this is a reference model that I like to call it a way to look at your business. A business consists of processes, it consists of your technology, it consists of data, it consists of people, physical entities. And how do you model an entire business? So Platform Industry 4.0 came up with this architecture. if you're in software, you always think about architecture or network architecture. This is a business architecture, if you like to see it in this way. And we don't have time to go into the specifics of it, but I'd like you to at least have a very quick conceptual understanding of the fact that this I4.0 framework that I'm sharing with you is not plucked out from thin air. It looks at a very objective view of the business, consisting of your logical layers, business functional, information, communication, integration. There's a process layer, and then there's the physical entity layer. So combining all of them together gives you a very comprehensive view of your business and how it works. On top of this framework or this architecture, CIRI was validated by an advisory panel of global academic and industry experts. So it was not just created and then thrown to us and say go and use it, but it was validated by literally tens and tens of academic institutions, associations, as well as practitioners. And it's tested and applied to more than 350 companies. Now, this slide is actually old, but it's now grown to about 350 companies who have actually adopted this. And of course, it's been shown to be robust, reliable, and relevant. So this is a quick overview of what what was done in order to create this particular framework. The framework consists of four things, four elements. One is, of course, the business framework, looking at the business, and then assessment matrix are the 16 dimensions that I'll be showing you a little bit later on. This is to help you assess where you are. And then after you assess where you are, you need to prioritize which area do you invest in. And then how to apply it. Like I said, there's a method to applying it, which is called the LEAD framework. So I'll be touching on these four components as we go along. By the way, for those of you who are keen on this, I'll just be doing an introduction, and towards the end, there will be a very short quiz. If you like to play quiz, stay on, and we'll have a little bit of a prize and a bit of a fun to see how well you have understood, what I'm sharing here. But moving on, the CIRI framework is a business framework. First of all, it looks at the business framework, and a business is comprised of processes, the technology that it applies or it uses, and of course it's made up of the organization or the physical people, right? So it's people, processes, and technology. And from these building blocks, if you like, we develop 8 pillars, all right? 8 of these outer pillars. Now, under process, there are 3 pillars: operations, supply chain, and your product side, life cycle. Operations refer to the activities you carry out internally within the organization, from top to bottom. Yeah, supply chain is, if you like, the horizontal process between your company and your suppliers and your partners, as well as your customers. And then product life cycle is also internal, but you may be developing your product in conjunction with other partners as well. So it is a cycle on its own that you engage in to create your products. Technology involves 3 pillars. Technology looks at how automated is your technology, how connected is your technology, and how intelligent is your technology. And then when it looks at, when it comes to people, the organization, we look at, first of all, the structure and management, the leadership part of it. And then we look at the talent readiness, or how ready your workforce is. So for those of you who are managers, who are business owners, these 2 aspects are equally critically important. And in fact, I tend to always emphasize that, businesses are made out of people first and foremost. And it is the people that makes the difference. And so it is actually one of the important pillars to look at. Although we are all in technology, and of course, we do place a lot of emphasis on the tools and the systems that we use as well. So collectively, this is the business framework of adopted by CIRI. And collectively, this becomes the Smart Industry Readiness Index. Yeah. Now, the index, it's called index, but it actually refers to the 16 dimensions. So this is the assessment matrix that we call it. there are 16 dimensions that represent assessment areas for a company that you can use to evaluate your current readiness of your facility. Now, keep in mind that Siri particularly wants to model companies or businesses that have production facilities. Production facilities can be in-house or it can be outsourced to your contract manufacturers, right? But you do want to assess your production capabilities, particularly using Siri, because it is quite focused on like I said, the three aspects: your process, your technology, and the organization, all involved in producing something. Okay, so let me go into each of the dimensions very quickly as an introduction. I won't have enough time to go into all 16 in detail, obviously, but I'll take one or two as examples to show you. Now, vertical integration, as I said earlier, is related to your operation. Why do we call it vertical integration? Because this assessment area asks the question of how integrated are your vertical or your operational processes. Then similarly, in concept, how integrated are your supply chain concepts, your supply chain processes or your horizontal processes. And then thirdly, how integrated are your product life cycles, right? Then in the technology area, as I said, how automated, how connected, and how intelligent, right? But it also looks at three specific entities, if you like, of technology. Shop floor technology, meaning how automated is your shop floor, how connected is your shop floor, and how intelligent is your shop floor. This refers to your production lines. And then on the enterprise level, it asks the question, how automated is your enterprise? Enterprise here refers to your HR, sales, planning, operation, IT operation, logistics operation. All these are related to your enterprise functions, right? Shop floor is, of course, you're focusing on producing the goods that you sell. Enterprise is basically HQ. And then facility is your actual physical plant. The building that houses your production line, that's your facility. So again, it asks questions of how automated, how connected, and how intelligent is your facility, right? At organizational level, it looks at talent readiness. And talent readiness refers to two key areas of assessment. One is the workforce learning and development. It looks at how structured is your workforce learning. That means, is there a way that you ensure that your workforce is on learning all the time and learning about these new trends, new technology? They're picking up new skills as we go along. As we all know, I 4.0 is so new that this is not something you can go to university for. This is something that you tend to learn on the job, or as you go along, you pick up. So this component is important. The other component is your leadership competency. How prepared are your leaders? How informed are they? How independent are they in forming strategies that will help you transform? So as a business owner, you want a group of leaders around you that are well informed and are capable of making plans and implementing some of these technologies. At the management level, it looks at two key components, right? The inter and intra-company collaboration, I thought, is a very interesting and insightful assessment area. Why? Because, as I said earlier, today businesses can no longer operate alone. They need to work with their partners, their ecosystem partners. So the ability to collaborate is very important, and it assesses your maturity. This particular dimension assesses your maturity in being able to collaborate both internally and externally. And lastly, probably one of the most important is your leadership, senior leadership, CEO down, and the levels that report to CEO. Do they have a strategy? Is there a roadmap or a strategy to help you transform? And even if you do have a strategy, is there a governance structure? Meaning, is there a standard operating procedure that will govern the way you transform? Because it's not something that, if you say, hey, go and transform, and everybody suddenly knows what to do. there are bound to be conflicts, there are bound to be contentions, dilemmas, challenges, decisions that have to be made, and so there have to be processes or SOPs to help people make these decisions and in an orderly manner adopt or apply the transformation. So in a nutshell, I'm afraid I can't go into too much of a detail, but these are the 16 dimensions, and each of these dimensions are being assessed in terms of your maturity level. All right. So in each dimension that I showed you earlier, CIRI requires us to assess the maturity level according to 6 different bands. So each dimension is scored according to 6 bands. Each dimension has a defined scope for assessment. So 0 would be the least matured and 5 would be the most matured. So we go through this exercise. If you take an assessment like this, we'll go through this exercise where each of these 16 dimensions are being assessed, and then a banding is assigned to it, whether you're band 1 or band 2 or band 3, you're assigned a band, right? And so this is an example of the actual definition of each band for the vertical integration dimension. All right, so let's go into some examples. Just now I talked about vertical integration. Now vertical integration is the, as I said, the integration of your processes within the company internally, right? From the HQ all the way to your operations, your manufacturing, as well as your planning, your sales, your HR functions, etc., all happening here. So this is the vertical integration. If you attempt to integrate your operations internally, so of course, if when you take the assessment, if it shows that, hey, you're very mature in this area, what that means is that you are already having the capability to transform from a traditional manufacturing operation to a smart factory, because you are well integrated in terms of your processes, internal processes. You're fully integrated from planning to production, yeah, as I alluded to earlier. Your information systems and production equipment are connected and communicate intelligently, meaning you can be fully digitalized and autonomous, right? There's a feedback loop from planning to production and back to product design. So seamless information transfer with efficiency gains. So these are some of the benefits I'm trying to show you. You can improve quality and flexibility of your manufacturing operation if you integrate everything from top to bottom. Yeah, of course, because the name says integration, but in terms of the actual assessment, later on you will see it doesn't stop at integration, but it looks into further automation and all that. Ultimately, it reduces your operating costs and it creates the agility, real-time factory insights, and analysis. Now, a quick plug, of course, in this particular dimension, if you use, if you need an ERP or an MES, a product such as SolidWorks is something that will help you achieve this type of integration. Okay, so vertical integration has its obvious benefits in creating an agile company, able to respond internally to your external changes. But also, if you look at this chart here, as I said, this dimension assesses your maturity of your vertical or your operational processes from 0 to 5, band 0 to band 5. With these, I guess you can call them grades, right? First of all, your processes are undefined, meaning that your resource planning, your technical production processes are managed and executed in silos. So that's what we mean by undefined. Basically they're all doing their own thing, internal operations, right? So that's the least mature. Then digitalization comes in. Your resource planning and your technical production processes are managed and executed in silos, but you do have operational technologies like your SCADAs, PLCs, human machine interfaces, and your IT systems that you are currently using. So most of you probably have some form of systems that you're using, whether it's ERP or MES, or in your production lines, you have SCADAs, you have your PLCs, and of course you have your automated machines like CNC machines, things like that. So if you are already using some of these things, perhaps you are in band 2, you're digital. Now, band 3 is where we strive to be on an average, meaning, minimum you need to try and be integrated, because your operational technologies and your information technologies, OT and IT, manage resource planning and technical production processes in a linked fashion. That means your processes are actually talking to each other, whether through people or through machines, they are at least linked. Exchange of data and information across different functions are predominantly managed by human beings still. So meaning, yes, you have an ERP, but to trigger, say, a change of bill of material from your SolidWorks, let's say, SolidWorks is not connected to your ERP. Somebody needs to download your or export your bill of material and then import it into your ERP. That is what we mean by integrated. As in your process is integrated, but the action is not automated yet. It is still done by human beings. Automated then therefore refers to your all these processes actually now connecting to each other. The information exchange is taking place in an automated fashion. So SolidWorks or any of your PLM, maybe in a SolidWorks PDM that you are using, is now able to trigger, say, there's a change of engineering change order, and something has been amended in your bill of material, and now your bill of material is your PDM is triggering a change and an update to your ERP system, so that your ERP actually sees the latest bill of material. That is automated. And then lastly, intelligent would mean that your OT and IT systems are integrated from end to end, top to bottom, with processes being optimized through insights generated from analysis of data. So this implies the use of big data, where it analyzes all the activities that are going on and is able to predict, even to a certain degree, things that are happening, changes that are coming, etc. So this is dimension 1, vertical integration, and this is what Siri assesses. Now, the other dimension I pointed to, which is number 3, is the integrated product lifecycle. I chose this, of course, because most of us are in the product development business. So as you can see, this is a typical product development lifecycle. Now, traditionally, for most of us, in what I call the I3.0 era, your product development lifecycle typically goes from design to engineering and then manufacturing. Once it hits manufacturing, your designers, your R&D people will say, okay, I've done my job. Well, in I4.0, the scope, here it says, the scope is an integrated product lifecycle is the process of managing the entire lifecycle of a product from initial design, engineering, manufacturing, to customer use, to service and disposal, or to recycle. So now, in the definition of I4.0 product lifecycle, now takes you all the way to disposal of a product. Okay, so that's the difference here in I4.0. And what are the key characteristics and benefits? It gets you to strongly focus on digitalization and integration. As you can see, digitalization takes place from product design all the way to disposal. It improves coordination with production. The tracking of change history and also gain product usage insights by adopting an integrated platform like this. Overall, you get to reduce your costs because product design optimized for manufacturing, or as most of you probably think of it in terms of DFM. So you can optimize your design for manufacturing, but also for services, especially when it comes to maintenance. and your disposal. So integrated processes also reduce error and optimize your material usage. It also gets you to design for flexible production with real-time data exchange generating insights on quality, production efficiencies, material usage, and equipment usage. So ultimately, it enables a greater degree of personalization if you adopt something like this. Now, for those of you who are already using SolidWorks PDM, you have to a certain degree digitalize your processes. But this dimension hopefully helps you see the scope and some of the benefits. If, of course, if you are, the more mature you are, the more benefits you derive from this kind of view of integrated product lifecycle. And ultimately, it improves customer satisfaction. There's error reduction, increased efficiency, and improved response to customers. Now, how do we grade the maturity of an integrated product lifecycle? Again, it's from undefined to defined to digital, integrated, automated, and intelligent. Very similar to the vertical integration that you saw earlier, but the definition is slightly different, right? So the processes along the product lifecycle are managed and executed in silos. This is for defined. Yes, all these things are taking place in silo based on a set of formally defined instructions like your SOPs, but the activities are mostly performed by humans with analog tools. By the way, Siri views Excel and email as analog tools, okay? Digital would mean that processes along the product lifecycle are managed and executed in silos by digital tools. Example, CAD/CAM, design data are stored digitally and shared via your PLM. So if you're using SolidWorks, you're using some of the tools within SolidWorks, yes, you are digital, as I said earlier, but bear in mind the transfer of data, if it is still by email, then it is not considered fully digital. You should be using something like a PLM, right? Integrated, what does that mean? Now, integrated means that the digital tools and systems managing your product life cycles are linked, meaning there is some form of a logical connection, whether it is done through communication by humans or whatever, right? But there is a defined process that links the activities together. But activities are predominantly managed by humans. So again, it's managed as in like somebody has to go and start and stop that process, as I mentioned earlier. Once it's automated, that would mean that your systems are able to exchange data independently or autonomously. That's what we mean by automated. So an example, again, as what I shared earlier is, again, in your product life cycle, if you have an engineering change order taking place, the trigger needs to be from external. Let's say your customer wants to make a change. Once that trigger comes in, the process is automated in that it informs, your PDM may inform the relevant engineering department to look at the changes. So then the changes take place. It can be the design change may be done obviously on something like a SolidWorks, and then once it is done, for those of you who know PDM, for example, it gets you to forward, or the system itself with a defined workflow will forward that information to, say, the relevant engineering manager for approval. So that kind of activity should be automated, right? And once it is automated, you can then think about how intelligent is your PLM process or your integrated product lifecycle. Intelligence comes in terms of optimization. So optimizing your insights through the data that you collect. And a lot of this kind of data collection takes place using, of course, the digital twin. So typically in I4.0 examples, you will see your product having a digital model that tracks the usage physically, from all the products that you have sold, the same identical products being sold in the market and being used in the market, that's being tracked with data constantly being sent back on the way it is being used. So that kind of data collected helps you to optimize your design, for example. So that gives you some form of intelligence in your product development lifecycle. So of course, again, some tools that you may already be using, SolidWorks PDM, Manage, and you will always see this 3D experience platform here because for those of you who are familiar, the 3D experience platform is pretty much end-to-end and allows you to do all these things on the cloud, but also within a very secure environment, and enables you to automate a lot of these processes that I've just described. Okay, so that is in integrated product lifecycle dimension. And just to give you a quick look at some of the solutions that are available from CADVision on some of these processes or key dimensions. So these are the 16 dimensions I showed you earlier, and these are some of the tools that you can adopt in order to achieve a certain level of maturity. It doesn't mean that if you adopt these tools, you get to band 5, for example. But it gets you on the way, and this is an iterative process. Okay, so that is about assessment. Now about prioritization. As I said earlier, it's one thing to know where you are today, but as this McKinsey survey shows, right, there are still roadblocks preventing people from adopting I 4.0, and these are some of the key reasons being surveyed. There's a lack of resources and knowledge to scale. Take note, to scale. A lot of people can do pilot, but scaling is a different thing. High cost of scaling is another barrier. Hard to justify business case without short-term impact. A lot of people say, let's go, let's do it, but there isn't a clarity of plan to ensure that there is sufficient commitment from top all the way down to the executive level of the organization. So it's very difficult to justify. Some of you in middle management may say, hey, I want to do this, but there isn't a clear justification, and therefore there may not be enough money allocated, no budget, etc. Pilots demonstrate unclear business value. So again, if you start without a clear value, as I said right from the beginning, what I'm hoping to give you is to help you develop this mental picture and framework so that eventually you can develop a clear vision for it. And then, of course, there's too many use cases to prove. Now, again, if you don't scope it properly, then yes, you have too many use cases. So these are some of the key challenges that are preventing people from adopting I 4.0. So what I'm showing you here is a framework to help you prioritize. The framework consists of a planning horizon. By the way, this framework is called TIER, T-I-E-R. TIER refers to, the T refers to today's state. Today's state meaning your assessment scores, as I've explained in the first part, 16 dimensions. All the 16 dimensions are being evaluated, and the scores will then become an input to this prioritization exercise. Then next comes the impact to the bottom line, the I, meaning we consider the cost profile of a company. Obviously, different cost components, whether they are large or small. So for example, certain businesses have very high costs in labor, right? So then obviously any activity related to labor is going to be very expensive. So we need to take those things into consideration. And then third is the enterprise business essential business objectives. So these are referring to your KPIs at the company level. So we take that into consideration as well. What are the key performance indicators that are most important to a particular business? In Siri, we map about 14 different KPIs, typical ones that are being that are important to a business, and then we get you to choose 5 of them to be the top priorities. And then the fourth element is the references to the broader community, the R. What we mean by that is we take the best-in-class benchmarks, those that are in your industry, and we take their input to compare to yours, and that will give you sort of a sense of how near or far you are from your competitors, right? So these 5 elements combined together, the planning horizon, your assessment scores, your cost profile, your KPIs, and your best benchmarks combined together give you the impact value of each dimension. So impact value basically is just an index number that is produced at the end of a calculation exercise. And the higher the index number, the more relevant it is to you and the more important it is to be addressed. Okay, so that's the 5 elements used in the prioritization exercise. So we'll go into them one by one. The 16 dimensions, as I mentioned earlier, if you embark on a series assessment, this is something that you will see at the end of the assessment where there will be a scoring of each dimension. As you can see here, 1 to 16. And then for each dimension, there is a score between 0 to 5. Yeah. And each of them represent different areas, as I said. All this can be done within 1 day, right, of an assessment. Then the second component I mentioned is the impact to bottom line or your cost profile. So as I mentioned earlier, each cost component like aftermarket services, depreciation, labor, maintenance, raw materials, all these things have impact to your prioritization. Each cost category has a certain level of impact or relevance to the 16 dimensions. So example, the more mature your integrated product life cycle, the lower your cost, the lower your aftermarket services and warranty costs. Yeah, so that I think is quite logical. And there's 5 more cost components here: rental, research and development, your SG&A, utilities and transportation. So these are 10 cost components that we consider. And then the 14 KPIs that I mentioned earlier that is taken as an input to the prioritization. It's categorized into 4 categories: productivity KPIs, flexibility KPIs, quality KPIs, and speed KPIs. And again, each KPI has a certain level of impact or relevance to the 16 dimensions I spoke to earlier. So example is that you may have a highly automated shop floor. One of the dimensions is shop floor automation, right? You may have a highly automated shop floor, but if it's prone to accident, it is not safe, obviously, and that impacts your quality KPI. Okay, so then the fourth input is to take reference to your broader community or your benchmarking. So depending on which industry you are in, Siri looks at the aggregated performance or scoring of each industry, each of these 14 industries, and then it gives you a comparison between you and your competitors, how far or how near you are to your competitors. So this is an earlier report that was published from 200 companies. I can't remember which particular industry this is from, but as you can see, there are the top 10%, for example, are usually, for example, quite automated. They are fully automated, or they are, and then in terms of the operational vertical integration, they are obviously on the way to being fully integrated, so they are number 3. But the ones in the lower tier are barely making it to digital. So you can kind of see the difference between where you are now and your competitors. Obviously, you want to measure yourself against the top, right, I presume. Okay, so that's relevance to the industry. Now, planning horizon. It also takes, Siri also takes input in terms of how long is your planning horizon. If you are a strategic company, you take a 3 to 5 year plan. That means usually you are not under any near-term financial pressure. You want to maintain leadership position and you want to overtake your competitor. That's typically when you adopt a long-term strategy, a strategic planning horizon. For tactical, it is between 1 to 2 years, and it's usually adopted by SMEs. It assumes you have limited resources, as most of us do experience, and you want to stay nimble. You want to focus on winning your local or your regional market. So you're kind of more short term, but you want to sort of win in your current playing field before you go into the jump into a bigger pond, as they say. Or you can take a short-term view, very short-term, 3 to 6 months, and you typically, you may want to consider your financial flexibility. Usually, companies have short-term financial pressures, and they want to optimize their resource and costs. This is also applicable using Siri to help you zoom into 1 or 2 key areas where you can sort of address. And in so doing, you are able to reduce your cost in the longer term. Okay, so this is the 5th component or input into the Siri assessment. So after all this, after what I've shared with you, looking at the framework, doing the assessment, and then doing the prioritization, now we come to the final report. So as I said, this is a systematic approach. So at the end of it, we plug in all the numbers, we get all the scoring, and for example, a company that does this from an example of one company that does the scoring of Siri, you can see they range from 1 to 2. Right, across the 16 dimensions. But what happens and what are the most important are these numbers here you're seeing in light yellow. These are the impact values. So the output of the report will tell you, it basically gives you a set of numbers between 0 and 1, right? The higher that number, the more important or the greater the impact will be for your business. And so in this particular example, it shows vertical integration is actually the highest impact. So if you are able to integrate your internal operation more, whether you just did it, like you see this company currently is 1. So they are just defined, they're not digital yet. So if they even get to 2, to digitalization, they will experience a much bigger benefit because the impact to their costs to achieving their KPIs will be much higher. Okay. The second one is horizontal integration. Again, this is integrating your processes from suppliers to your customers. So you can go along like this, but typically in Siri, we only recommend that at any point in time, you focus on not more than 4 dimensions. So that's why only 4 are highlighted. And usually we would also focus more on the processes, again, because processes determine how you do your business. And so internal processes can, as they say, garbage in, garbage out. If your processes are strong, they are good, they make sense, then the output tends to be of higher quality. So we do emphasize quite a bit on processes. And as I said earlier, how do you apply it? Application is easier said than done, but it requires some discipline. So here we propose a simple 4-step approach to applying Siri. Once you get that result, it means that you have already, you've done your first round of learning, you have evaluated by doing the Siri assessment. Now you do a roadmap, all right? You plan your solution, and then you deliver the solution. These last 2 will be largely on project management, making sure that you manage your project, you architect your solutions correctly, find the right people, and then deliver it. But the most important thing is to take note is that this lead framework encourages companies to do it in an iterative fashion. So this is not a, do it once and then throw it away. This is something that you keep on iterating from phase 1 to phase 2. So just to give you an idea, typical companies would take, let's say, do a pilot project. They start their phase 1, they apply their lead framework, learn, evaluate, architect, and they deliver. After they deliver, they scale their pilot. After scaling the pilot, they apply again the lead framework before they go to phase 2 because they learn a second round and then they want to now architect the second phase of the solution. So they do an assessment again. So again, yes, as I said earlier, this assessment can be done and usually it's recommended to be done in a repeated fashion from phase 1 to phase 2. So every phase you do an assessment. Why? Because your state has changed. When you do it the first time, your vertical integration or your integrated product lifecycle may be at band 1. After you've done that first round, you are now at band 2. So now the dynamics have changed. So now you apply that again, and you then formulate or architect a solution for phase 2, and you repeat phase 2, then you scale it, and then you go to phase 3, and then you scale it. So this process goes along like this. Now, in a nutshell, that is what I have for Siri framework. Okay, that's what the framework is all about. The actual framework itself is, of course, a lot more comprehensive. I can't go through all of it within 1 hour, but what I can show you here is as a way of sort of rounding off and summarizing everything, is to look at the opportunities that, as well as the risks actually, that we see from Siri. After doing quite a lot of companies, as I said, about 350 companies, you can pretty much map out where each industry is in terms of maturity and the variance. Variance refers to the variance within the industry of the processes. Okay, like how different are the business processes and the manufacturing processes within the pharmaceutical industry. There can be a lot of difference. Semiconductors also, if you front end and back end are very different processes. So there's a high level of variance in that sense. Medical technology also has a lower variance, whereas compared to energy and chemicals in the downstream, they have a higher variance. So variance is, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it looks at how different your business is within that industry. Yeah, a maturity is, of course, maturity relative to adoption of I 4.0. Now, keep in mind this 4 quadrant is flipped around. High variance is now here on the left-hand side, and low variance is on the right-hand side. On the y-axis, it is the usual convention. The low one is at the bottom, and the high is at the top. And this is the maturity axis. So keep that in mind. Now, what does that mean for each quadrant? And what are the opportunities? So for this low variance and high maturity quadrant, right? Or rather high maturity, low variance. We call it the coniferous quadrant. It means that typically you manufacture products that are technologically intensive and highly regulated. So pharmaceutical, very highly regulated. Electronics and medical, well, also very highly regulated, but they have very low variance, meaning these guys, the way they manufacture their products are very similar within that particular industry. So it mostly consists of MNCs. They have higher standards in manufacturing processes, technology adoption, and organizational development. So what are the opportunities here and what should they do? Continue investing in highly skilled workforce and continue investing in infrastructure and standards. Build an ecosystem and facilitate knowledge sharing. Why like this? Because most of them are already quite mature in terms of their I 4.0 adoption. So what they need to do is to continue to scale and to sustain their operation, their adoption. So this is what they can do. Next quadrant is the tundra quadrant, where you have low maturity and low variance. So low maturity, not too good. Low variance, actually, there may be some advantage here because your business is very similar in the way that you produce goods and services. So the nature of product and manufacturing processes limits the ease of I 4.0 adoption. Why low maturity? Because they are some of them are quite highly customizable or highly customized products. very low quantities are being produced at a time. You focus on, or the opportunities here means that you focus on improving your processes and your organization, and you strengthen partnerships with suppliers and customers, right? So these are some of the areas where you can consider to, because I would say the diversity there is quite high. Um, the type of products being produced, especially in general manufacturing, there can be all kinds of things from toys to spare parts to all kinds of stuff. So because of the diversity in the products being used, it is encouraged that if you are in that small pocket of companies that say produce ball bearings or something like that for local aerospace industry, get together, form some partnerships with your suppliers and your customers, streamline your processes, because that gives you the opportunity to still adopt I4.0 better. Okay. Next is the high maturity, high variance quadrant, which we call the rainforest quadrant. High maturity, they have already adopted I4.0, but they also have very high variance, as I mentioned earlier. Semiconductor is one of them, where their processes within that industry is very different. Usually low, they have a lack of awareness of their new possibilities, right? That's why you have high variance. Actually, there doesn't need to be that much of a variance in those industries, but usually the reason is because the people in the industry are not paying as much attention as they should on the opportunities available. So here we encourage people to work with progressive trade associations and government agencies to get assistance and to develop internal initiatives for transformation. So get started basically. And then lastly, low maturity, low variance here. So obviously not so good if you have low maturity, but low variance may be an opportunity because there is not as much of a differences within the industry, right? So this is made up of highly diverse manufacturing processes. There are varying attitudes towards transformation. Again, one of the root causes of low maturity is attitudes towards these types of transformation vary. There is opportunity to leapfrog competitors through adoption, obviously, because it's just basically due to different people, different companies, business owners or business leaders having very different mentalities. But those that see the opportunity leapfrog very fast. So this is where I see as most of the opportunities are available. Strengthen your business processes, organizational structure, and your technology adoption. This is a huge area where you can differentiate yourselves. And of course, many governments have assistance programs as well as provide expertise through trade associations and all that. Again, take advantage of those. So these are some of the opportunities. And with that, I end my presentation and we come to Q&A. Are there any questions that I should that you would like me to address?
Yeah. So hi, if the audience have any questions, regardless of is it to adoption, to the content clarification, yeah, just please ask away. We can do that, or maybe while we wait for the audience to actually curate some of their questions, probably we can actually start with a short quiz first.
Sure. Okay, that's good. Yeah, let's get to the quiz. If all of you can go to this website, menti.com. If you're using your laptop to watch this webinar, maybe you can use your phone. This is a very easy platform to use. And then key in this code 9645374. I will be starting the quiz pretty soon. Very good. We've got 4 people there now. Keep going. I'll wait for a while. And meanwhile, those who have questions, do post your questions, or I think there's a chat or something that can allow you to post questions. Very good.
Yep. So yeah, just post it over there, or and in the meantime, you can join this Menti. Oh,
Yeah. Very good. We're seeing a lot of people coming in.
yep.
Put your name if you can. There's at the end of the quiz, there will be one winner.
Yep.
And I think we have a voucher or something, right, JJ?
Yep, that's right. That's right. So the
Okay.
winner of this short quiz, this simple quiz, will actually get a RM30 or Singapore dollar 10 ringgit. Sorry, 10 Sing dollar of a Grab voucher. Yeah. So just come on to this quiz and just test out what you have learned so far over the past 1 hour, and you'll be able to win prizes. All right, we see quite a lot of people. Let's just give them another 2 to 3 minutes or so, and then we can start the quiz probably. Yep. And in the meantime, questions too. Yep, yeah, we do see some questions coming in. Yeah, so you can do that as well.
JJ, I can't see the questions right now.
You should be able to. There should be a panel called questions, and you can just expand that on the right.
Questions.
Yeah.
Questions. I don't see it.
Oh, it's all right. Maybe what I can do later is I'll share them with you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
I see a chat, but it's not there. There's.
All right. Yeah. Probably I'll just show it to you later.
Okay. Wonderful. There are more people coming in. 41, 42. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do have people. Yeah. So yeah, don't be shy. Just join in. Yeah. Just quickly check it out. Yeah. It's a simple quiz, right?
Yeah, I just have some fun.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, I think maybe we should we get started?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So there are only 5 questions, very quick ones, and
All right.
the fastest answer will get the highest points. All right. So here's the first question. The faster you answer, the higher the points you get. And you have 15
all right.
seconds.
One of the reference models used to formulate CV framework was. Time's up.
26 people answered. Very good. Most of you got it. 13 got the right answer. It is RAMI 4.0, as I mentioned earlier, the reference architecture model I 4.0. Okay. Next question. Keep your fingers ready. Oh, sorry. This is the leaderboard, and Mr. D or Miss D is the leader right now with 969 points. So remember again, okay, the faster you answer, the higher the score. Okay, get ready. Next question. Get your fingers ready. Siri views a business through which building blocks below? This one should be quite easy. And keep in mind that sometimes there are more than one correct answers. So that's okay, you'll have a higher chance of getting it right. Great. Most of you got it right, 16 and 10. So there are 2 answers here. Remember, there are 3 building blocks that I shared: processes, technology, and organization, not people. All right, let's see. Who is leading now? I think, wow, Win 1,707 points. Congratulations. Okay,
All right.
now get ready for the next question. Question 3, get ready. And we start now.
Yep. In life cycle dimension focuses on digitalization and integration from product design to which one?
So remember what I said about in I 4.0's integrated product lifecycle definition now is different from what we are used to in the past. Wonderful. 27 of you got it. No, sorry. That was a trick question. That was a trick question. Sorry.
Yep. I remember the full...
Yes, sorry, JJ.
Yeah, I remember the full diagram, right? Yeah, it's not
Yes.
only to manufacturing right now, it's already to customer use, to disposal, and the full circle of the life cycle, right? I was paying attention.
So what we were used to last time, as I said, in I 3.0, is the integrated product lifecycle stops at manufacturing. As an R&D guy, you probably feel very comfortable already. Oh, manufacturing accepted it. My job's done. Well, actually not anymore now in the I 4.0. So you have to go all the way to disposal. So 6 of you were paying attention. Congratulations.
Right, let's take a look at the scoreboard.
918, Mr. Lore or Miss Lore. Wow, now you are top. Very close, 2, 3, 4, 7 and 2, 3, 4, 5. Just 2 points difference between Lore and Jesher.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Next question, get your fingers ready and we start now.
CV prioritization takes the following factors into consideration to help determine the biggest impact to the company.
Remember the tier framework.
I know this one as well.
Yes, assessment scores and cost profile. Wonderful. 23 of you got it.
Yeah.
Remember that there are 5 input components to the tier framework. One of them is assessment score, and the other one is the cost profile. The third one is your KPIs. Fourth can be your planning horizon, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's see who's leading. Quite a few of you got it right this time, so let's see who's the fastest. 19 was a long time ago.
Nice name.
Yeah, nice name. You're the fastest, but apparently Lore and Jesher are still neck and neck pretty much, 83 to 58 points. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now we come to the last question. Okay.
Right, the last question. To read it all.
Fingers ready, and we start now.
Okay, the tier framework. Which one of these? Time's up.
35 of you answered. Oh, yeah, only 12 of you got it. Effectively allocate resources to the biggest impact areas. Yes. So tier framework, again, is about the prioritization. Prioritization for what? For you to get the most out of that particular exercise, which means that you have to be able to effectively allocate resources to the biggest impact area in your business. So the biggest impact area is described in terms of the 16 dimension. And this framework helps you to zoom in on which particular dimension to allocate your resources so that you can get the biggest bang for your buck. So yes, with that, we finish our 5-question quiz. Let's see who is the grand winner. Is it going to be
Drum roll.
Jasper? Jasper!
Alright.
Wow! Jasper,
All right,
finally! Congratulations, Jasper. 3825 points. So you will be getting a Grab voucher.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess JJ, you'll be
yeah.
taking the email of the person, and
Yep, yep.
you will be sending out the email, right? The voucher.
That's right. Yeah. So congratulations, Jasha. I believe you in Penang, right? So yep, you have won a RM30 Grab voucher. So we'll be actually sending the prize to you later on. All right.
All right. So do we have time for questions?
Yeah, let's take a look at the questions. All right, we have one question. Yep, so the question is, what about connecting the i4.0 also to the finance modules?
Connecting i4.0 to finance modules. Yes, certainly. I'm assuming here you mean connectivity or integration, right? So i4.0 looks at your entire operation vertically, as I said, as well as horizontally, as well as your integrated product lifecycle. Now, all these dimensions, all these 3 dimensions affect your finances, right? So yes, integrating your finance to your sorry, the question was connecting your finance to i4.0. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Connecting the i4.0 to the finance modules.
Okay, so I'm assuming what you mean is to integrate your finances, like your finance system, to all your various other processes like product life cycle, your vertical integration, your operational processes like HR planning or manpower resource allocation, which may affect OT, that kind of stuff. Or you may want to say, hey, I want to connect my procurement side, obviously, to finance, which ERPs typically do integrate your procurement, your purchasing to finance. So yes, integrate your finance system to any of these areas, you will reap quite a lot of benefits. Now, the more integrated you are, the more benefits you get. Obviously, the key here, as I mentioned earlier, is it's one thing to integrate them. Even if you do integrate them, I think you have achieved quite a lot. But it's worth looking at automating that process. And of course, a lot of ERPs, in even MESs today, for example, if you're using an MES, typically MESs do come with a manpower module, for you to track how many workers clock in, clock out, how much man hours being used in each workstation, each production station. All these things can be tracked. And if you connect your finance module to those systems, which, by the way, our Delmia Works, for example, can do that, then you reap a lot more benefits. It's not just integrated, but it can be automated as well. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. So yeah, to actually know more about ERP systems and the integration of it, right? We actually do have a session on the 3rd day itself, which is about digitalization of your processes. So yeah, you can actually head over there. If I'm not mistaken, it is also 3 p.m. on Wednesday, 28th of October. Yeah, so please be sure to actually join that session if it intrigues you in terms of i4.0 to and ERP systems for connectivity for your finance modules. All right, yeah, we have another question right here, which is for from Mr. Winson. So which companies or industry should focus on developing i4.0?
Sorry, say that again. Which company or industry is it should
Which
focus on?
industry should focus on developing I 4.0, which I think we actually touched a little bit on that um, towards the end of the webinar. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly this one. All right, yeah.
Yes. The industries that are being modeled are all here. Actually, only 12 are shown here, but by now Siri has expanded to 2 more industries. So now they're all together 14 industries. These are the ones that are being modeled. But if your company doesn't belong to one of these industries, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be adopting I 4.0. It just actually means that because Siri follows the what is it called? The International Classification Standards of a business, right? So there is a global standard to how you classify industries, and Siri follows that. And so as a result, it zooms in on like 14 particular industries. But a lot of companies probably fall under, for example, general manufacturing, right? If you're manufacturing wheelchairs, for example, what category are you under? Probably either in general manufacturing or precision parts, because it depends on the majority of your activity. So if 80% of your activity is in, let's say, fabricating metal parts, then perhaps you should be in precision parts. Robotics, for example, is in precision parts. So what I'm trying to say is that most manufacturing companies tend to qualify for adoption of I 4.0 because you are manufacturing already. So generally, that's the qualification. As to what type of business, it really varies. There are actually a lot. So Siri emphasizes on the fact that if you are producing something, you probably want to assess yourself and see how you can adopt I 4.0. So as I said, the scope of I 4.0 comes from fourth industrial revolution, which in itself is a very big scope, which covers medical and society everywhere. But I 4.0 basically zooms in on manufacturing. So that's the only qualification criteria, really. Yeah, I would say in general, even if you're producing lollipops, anything, it is still worth looking at how you can adopt technology in I 4.0.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's very relevant for us to actually adopt, regardless of where we are right now or what industry we belong to. All right. Yep.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question as well. The question. So there aren't any questions so far, but if you do have any questions, you can actually just write into us at info@CADVision.com.my or .sg, depending on where you're located at. But yeah, I think if there's no further question for now, that would actually wrap up our session for today. Yep. So thank you so much, Keat, for joining us today.
Thank you,
What I can
everybody.
do is, yeah, I actually do have a short survey that was actually prepared by Keat, Mr. Wong. All right. Let me just share it with you right here. All right. So we actually do have a survey that is catered for 2 types of people, which are one, if you have actually launched your own Industry 4.0 adoption or transformation projects, you can actually just do this quick survey to actually see where you're at right now in terms of the Siri framework. If not, but if otherwise you have not launched any own Industry 4.0 adoption or transformation projects, but you would really like to, you can also take this quick survey on the right-hand side. Yeah, it's both quite short survey, I think less than 10 questions each. Yeah, so you can just do that and then you can actually get a quick feel of where you're at currently. Yep. All right. And with that, yeah. All right. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Mr. Winston. All right. Yeah. So with that, yeah, we really hope that you guys have this have a more practical idea of what to look out for and where to actually start. So this session really aims to give you a introduction of Industry 4.0 and also what you guys, if you guys are interested to actually start on this, our sessions on day 2 and day 3 actually does address all these. All right, yeah. So thank you so much, Mr. Wong. Yep, yeah. So yeah, I'll just let
Thank you.
I'll just let this screen show for a little while longer. For those of you who are still with us, you guys can actually do this survey quickly. I mean, just go on this quick survey. Yep. Yeah, and that will be
All right.
all. All
Okay,
right.
I will sign off then, JJ.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Yep. Stay
Thank you.
safe. Yeah, we'll see
See
you
you,
soon.
everybody.
Yep. I'll see
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. All right. So it's just us for now. Yep. So once you have done this, let me just quickly go over to what to expect on day 2 and day 3 actually. So yeah, let's take a look at day 2. So tomorrow we actually do have sessions on simulation, all right, which is actually talking about CAE and how we can get ready for simulation in the future. So actually that includes workstation requirements or what is actually awaiting us in the cloud, right? We've seen a quick introduction of 3D Experience Business Platform earlier this morning, but what does it mean for simulation in this case? Yeah, so we can get to look at that. And of course, what are the new features in 2021? Then we actually do have a session on 3D scanning. So if you are interested in reverse engineering or in QA and QC with 3D scanning technologies and what is the future here, this will be a session from one of our partners from Createform to actually teach you how to accelerate your time to market. So don't miss out on this session as well if you're interested. And in the afternoon, we have the cloud integration. We'll be talking about cloud integration, which in turn talks about our 3D experience innovation solution. All right, so that will be talking about how to future-proof your business and also how to transform your business with the cloud integration right now. And lastly, to close off, the second day would be for DriveWorks. So Mr. Keat or Keatze, actually Mr. Wong, right? He actually touched a little bit on mass customization in terms of the product life cycle. So if you're interested, you can actually take a look at DriveWorks and how SolidWorks or your design process itself can actually provide mass customization for your customers in this case. All right, and then moving on to day 3, just a quick recap for you guys. In the morning, we have partners from Intel and Lenovo talking about some of the performance and technological advancements in today's workstations and more on the infrastructure side. Yeah, so you may notice one of the sectors that have been booming these days due to the pandemic situation is the semiconductor industry. So why is this so? Because the demand for electronics, everybody is working from home right now, including myself, right, in these settings. So we see how the trends are moving towards that. And here, our partners from Intel and Lenovo will actually be talking about what are the advancements here. All right, and in the afternoon session, we have the digitalization and some case studies on how to start your manufacturing transformation. So these will actually be including MES systems and also the ERP systems, which someone has actually talked about or have some inquiries on this. Yeah, so we see it from Mr. or Miss TC Gu, right? Yep, so that will be that. And lastly, we actually do have a customer sharing session, which is a conversation with industry leaders. In this case, we will actually be having a conversation with one of our customers, which is Panasonic, right? Panasonic R&D Appliances, Asia Pacific. So so here he will actually be talking about a little bit of adoption on Industry 4.0 as well, and how Panasonic is leading into it. All right, so don't miss out on any of these if it's thing to you, and based on your availability as well. All right, but no worries. What we'll have is we will always have a repeat of these sessions. So if you have missed out on these sessions, unfortunately, maybe you have some emergencies or some other meetings that you have to attend to, don't worry, we will be having repeated sessions for these topics. All right, and so that would actually be all. All right, and we are at the end of our first day session. I hope it has been an informative sessions for you guys. But there's a lot of other topics to look forward to in day 2 and day 3. So yeah, please keep your eyes peeled, and I will actually sign off right now and right here. So we look forward to hosting you and seeing you tomorrow again. Right. So have a nice day and stay safe, everyone. I'll be signing off now. Thank you. Yep. Oh yeah, just before I go, if you guys would like to do the survey, you can just do it right here. I'll just leave this here, right here, very quickly. If not, if you guys are interested in registering for day 2 and day 3, you can also head on over to our website and you can actually register for the individual sessions. All right, so this is the quick survey. Okay, and yep, this is for your registration. So I'm just gonna leave this right here. All right, and I'll be signing off. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.